We're back after 1 week, just 1 week. Come on, be nice to us. 1 week break. I am Paco Garcia, one of your hosts, and this is the GMS Magazine Podcast, a podcast about role playing games, board games, and the people who make them. Sometimes the people who play them too. Hi, Chris.
Hey, this is Chris from DSX Machina.
Okay, we didn't record last week. We are going to record. In fact, I am recording now this week. This is the 14th of May, May the 14th, wherever you are in the world, whatever date format you prefer. And I have only one idea about one thing that we're going to talk about.
All right, I have no reviews, but I have two very important pieces. Well, one's a conversation about Kickstarter,
Mhm.
another one's is a news article, or rather, a pretty interesting piece of news from that is related to Kickstarter.
Okay. I only have one review of this beautiful little game called Walking in Burano by Empress 4.
Ooh, another
But
Empress title. That's good.
actually, they make some very good games. I am very, very fond of them, and this game is excellent. But we'll talk about that later because I really have no idea about the topics that you bring in today. I've been out of the loop for a few days. I just want to show as well, for the people watching the video, this t-shirt was given to me by my friends at the Spiel.
Oh, nice.
They're this lovely, and they are an amazing bunch. And Steve Conway is like a brother from a different mother that I wish I had known all my life. And I cannot wait till October. So hopefully at Spiel, we will be able to hug each other for the first time since we've known each other for nearly a decade. And he runs the Spiel and the Spiel Foundation. And he's the hell of a guy, very, very inspirational. And I love him to bits. And he sent me this t-shirt. And I cannot wait to meet him in real life. And people, you should listen to their podcast. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. So this is something that's been very interesting, and this is something that I plan on having a conversation at one of the conventions I'm attending regarding, and I talked about artists, the unfortunate increasing desperation to generate revenue,
Mhm.
and how certain things can look really down. Once again, I'm not going to throw blind accusations. I can only report what's happened. So a couple of days ago, Game Trace is a very well-known company. They, for the longest time, were doing the 3D printed insert, not 3D printed, but the digital, these 3D models that would be used to create these plastic custom molded inserts that you would find in certain games. They became so well known in the industry that just having the Game Trays logo outside of your box was kind of this mark of higher quality. If you had a Game Trays logo, you would expect that this would be a very well made product. So much so that I've worked with Noah Alderman, who's the head of Game Trays, on two projects. He designed the work for the failed project of Brothers Bond, and he also came on board my project to do the injected trays for Naramata. Wonderful. He had a grape themed inner tray. The two component trays were grape themed. He did the player trays. It's really an exquisite piece. And I make jokes about how I regret hiring him only because it added $25 onto the retail price of this game, a game that probably should have cost $45 Canadian, that being $75 because when you have plastic injected tray molding, it's not just we're just have you actually have to pay $5,000 or $6,000 for the company to build the molds, not even counting how much it costs. So it's not like it adds $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 to each. Yeah, it's the $6,000 to make the molds. Now you can, if you print up a lot of games, you can do that. But if you're doing a short run product like mine, it's very difficult to justify. Now, if I went and I told them to create 5,000 more, they've got the mold. They can just jump right in, and we can try to bring the cost of these products down. But it's definitely a show of quality. And there are some games that their entire mechanics of how the game revolves around how the trays work.
Okay.
They've decided to make their own game called Forsaken. It's been in process, like everything, longer than it probably should have. It was supposed to get released already. I think the actual release date was supposed to be last year, and they're still not even close. There was an announcement that came down last week that their Kickstarter page was being suspended. Now, this is a strange thing to happen a year after the campaign concluded. We've heard stories of Kickstarter campaigns being suspended during the process, generally because it turns out there was some problems. We've had issues with absolute outright to fraud of companies trying to present what looks like an illegitimate game, but it's just a way for them to steal money. There was a very famous one a couple of years back. So, but to have a campaign page be taken down a year after the effect was very unusual. And there was nothing to be announced at that point. We didn't know what was going on because I was a backer on this project. What I did get was a message, because obviously at this point they couldn't post an update. So this feels like really, really weird. And so the update was quite saying, we want to address notification went out via Kickstarter. This morning, Game Trade's lab received a notice from Kickstarter that the Forsaken campaign page was hidden due to a cease and desist notification. We wanted to reach out and let you know we are aware of the claim and working with Kickstarter to resolve the dispute. The claim was not regarding the game itself, but instead a small selection of art within the game. Game Trade's lab paid to have 10 images created that have become the subject of a copyright dispute. In order to quickly resolve the issues, we are removing the disputed images and replacing them with new artwork. This will not affect the quality of the components of gameplay of Forsaken. Production and distribution of the game will proceed with new art. Our team has put over 5 years of work into Forsaken, and it's something we are very proud of, blah, 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 blah. We commissioned 199 pieces of art for the game, and we will be commissioning new pieces to replace disputed content. Now, that was the initial announcement.
Okay.
A few days later, Forsaken got relisted. It is now back online. And they basically did a copy paste of that initial message. They've added to that that they've gone in and have updated the graphics on the Kickstarter page to exclude the disputed illustrations. Unfortunately, that's all I can say for now, according to Mike, who's the other guy who's running the operation. We are still working with our legal counsel to find the best way to navigate this situation. And that seems to be odd. So all we knew at the time was that there was a disagreement of artwork that was being employed. Now, it should be noted that I have not run into the pettiness of artists, but I've run into the pettiness of publishers. So there, I have on my books, I'll show you. I have my own 5e logo that was made, and because I had made 3 variations. One of them had numbers that were very similar to another 5e logo's numbers, and they hit me with a copyright strike. So I had to go in and change how the numbers looked. And I thought sure, I'll do that. But I also thought it was incredibly freaking petty, considering they're giving out their logo for free. I'm giving out my logo for free. And yet, for some reason, they chose to hit me with a warning of legal action if I didn't remove that one specific variant image. So this now comes into the Board Game Geek thread regarding this. Now, initially, it was mostly just people asking about the game and so forth. People saying thanks for the update, blah, blah, blah. And then something really started to happen that started to push what's actually happening, because it seems to be a bit more alarming than it appears. And I'm trying to bring up here. And it started off with, of all people, Rahdo. We know Rahdo. He's pretty popular in the industry. Very oftenly referred to in positive circles and so forth. The actual Rahdo page is run by a guy named Richard Ham. We know, yeah. I've not spoken to him directly. Maybe you have.
I have not.
He received a copyright strike against his channel, which has never happened before.
Okay.
Which could eventually, which unlikely, but if you get 3 copyright strikes, there's a very good chance that YouTube will shut your channel down.
But wait a second. Why did he get that?
Now, it was in specific reference to the gameplay video for Forsaken, which means whoever's filing legal action against Forsaken have gone the extra mile to throw copyright strikes against YouTube channels covering the game, which is a gross misuse of YouTube's copyright standards. It's very, very inappropriate. He can't fix the video because YouTube won't give him access to it. He says, I don't know what company this is, but it's simply called GCS. Now, I was trying to figure out who GCS is. And I'm still a little unclear on who it is. But it says GCS controls my video, not me. I've been trying to reach GCS and their lawyers at Paul Sine ever since they issued the strike last weekend, but got no reply to emails or phone calls. However, this morning I did get a generic, the legal matter is ongoing. We hope to resolve it soon email that I'm assuming their lawyers, because in the footer, there's a vague threats about how I can't repost the letter anywhere outside. I'd be outside, he would post it here. This has obviously really pissed him off. And he said, you could have just he replied to them, if there's a problem with the video, you could have just emailed me about it instead of sending a lawyer after me. I'm certain I could have blurred the offending images and re-uploaded and wouldn't have now have a strike on my channel's record. Because of your actions, I can't access the video at all until you release it. I hope you can find a more productive and collaborative approach to resolve the situation, because this has been very frustrating to say the least. If they could have just contacted me directly, they reached, and I'm sure we could have figured out what needed fixing and fixed it. But instead, they paid a lawyer to have a go at me and other channels, and we're all still waiting here. He is not the only one that got hit. Apparently, they went after everybody that had an image. If you showed the game and that image, if you showed video of this game, and at some point this artwork showed itself on the board, they went after you for copyright infringement. And the funny thing was, all I know about this is that this is a company. He says GCS, but I don't know if I'm going to make one final stab in figuring out if it's
I've done a GCS search, and the first thing that appears is the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is objectively to describe the extent of impaired consciousness in all type of acute medical and trauma patients. So I'm guessing that that's not it, is it? Thank you, Google.
No.
Thank you.
But I do know what they've published. This is another game company. This game company is also publishing a game called Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Darkness Apocalypse. I have not heard of this game, but I don't know if Rado misspoke about the company's brand, because the company is called Creative Game Studio, CGS. So Rado is probably incorrect so instead of saying he's saying GCS instead of CGS, which is probably a logical mistake. And so that's the company. The company is Creative Game Studio, and the Creative Game Studio is the one sending out these copyright strikes not only to Kickstarter but to every YouTube channel that has covered this game. This is not a very good look. This is not a very good look at all. And Rado continues saying, this whole situation is weird and out of left field. I mean, Drunagar uses game trays inserts. Their business partners are now out of the blue with no warning. They clamp down on all of us. I mean, couldn't they have picked up the phone and called their business partners and said, hey, we noticed something weird about these 10 pieces of art. Let's talk and figure this out. Maybe they did, not based on Noah's post at the start of the thread. It seems like he didn't know that the Kickstarter strike was going to happen. And I certainly had no warning about the YouTube strike against me. And I bet the other channels affected would say the same thing. I imagine we'll never know the whole story because once lawyers are involved, everyone needs to clam up. I really want to give the benefit of the doubt here. I've long been the biggest proponent of Hanlon's Razor. Not sure if that's another game, and hope that in this case it too turns out to have been a misunderstanding exasperated by an overly ambitious law office maybe. And I've seen situations where a company's legal division gets really punchy and they start acting and doing things that's really against the country's best interest because they think they're doing what's right. A good famous incident was when someone went on to an adult like a porn forum back when there were porn forums and talking about how awesome the Wii was. And everyone started talking about how awesome the Wii was. And the legal division of Nintendo didn't want to be associated with this porn forum, so sent a copy, like legal cease and desist to the people who ran the forum, to all the members. And it blew up, got viral, and everyone said it was such an incredibly stupid move. Nintendo had to come up and said, we didn't do that. It was our legal team. We regret. Obviously, if you guys love the title, we don't care where you're making the conversation. And then they gave Wii's for free to the people of this forum. I don't know how many they gave, a couple dozen.
Okay.
So it's a very strange situation.
I don't think that is that strange, to be honest with you. And without having a lot more information, I'm going to say that I can understand the company doing this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I can understand it, and it may sound and feel like a draconian thing, but the issue with cease and desists from these kind of situations is that people need to protect their IP for whatever reason. They need to protect it, and if they feel that if a YouTube channel showing material that contains your artwork and that could lead to sales and to the misconception that you are in any way, shape, or form related or contributing or somehow partnered with that game, that could be potentially very dangerous. So I think sending that kind of cease and desist can be very draconian, but it is the easiest and the quickest way to make sure that people know that this is a very serious matter, or at least that the company are taking it very, very seriously. So I can understand them going against the company. Of course, we don't know what the dispute is all about. We don't know to what extent the copyright infringement has actually taken place, what the extent of that copyright infringement, if it's just one image, one chunk of the image, if it is an artist that tried to play clever and send the same pieces to two different companies.
That's what I suspect. That's what I have, this funny feeling as someone who's worked with in similar situations. I can see where somebody, because if they have 199 pieces of artwork and 10 are in violation of some copyright, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was an artist that was sharing assets between them. Because I obviously, once again, benefit of the doubt, I'm assuming that Forsaken didn't just steal 10 images from another game on their product, that they have 199 pieces of images. It doesn't make sense why they would they would just steal 10. So that's the first thing. But regardless, and I understand why companies do it. I still find it incredibly foolish, because now that people are starting to realize that it was Creative Game Studio, now the dialogue is now going to shift with people going, how incredibly petty to go after Rado and other YouTube channels just for covering this game.
I don't think that's petty, though. I'm sorry.
I think it's incredibly petty.
No,
I think it's incredibly petty.
I disagree.
It's one thing to go after the publisher of the game, but to go after people, like, unfortunately, because board games have their volume turned down in the social circles, this is not something unknown within publishers and media, specifically with video games. there have been numerous video game publishers and video game creators that decided to go to war with YouTube reviewers, with
Yeah.
online content, and it destroys their career. They
Okay.
basically,
Okay. No. Wait a second. Wait a second. Um, I don't know of any situation where that has actually happened. I know that Nintendo is fierce when covering these sort of things, and they are like that, sending cease and desist letters. But the reach that somebody in a channel like Rado can have, if what the copyright infringement um, problems can do, say that it is true that people can think, oh, this company is associated with this other company, and they don't want that to happen. The
yeah.
number of people watching those videos is not small in a niche market, and the impact can be huge on the game. So it is not petty to go against somebody who could be spreading misinformation to thousands upon thousands of potential buyers that could become potential non-buyers.
Well,
So
I will decree vehemently. I think going after going after content creators that are not associated directly with the publisher. And if you want, you want to talk about specific examples. The YouTube page. Was actually what's the actual name of the page? Jim Sterling, which is run by James Stephanie Sterling, a wonderful content creator I've been following for years, has numerous examples of other YouTube channels and other review channels that get attacked and attempts. James Stephanie Sterling's own channel has been hit with copyright strikes because of their content in games journalism. And so there have been numerous examples, most of them documented on Sterling's YouTube page about this exact happen. Unfortunately, it never looks good for a company, but the video game community is so large, it doesn't take long for that viral hit to turn back on a game creator and effectively destroy their online reputation. We've seen how quickly a video game community can turn on a publisher. This happened last week with Helldivers too, which tried to enforce a PlayStation Network account and got 482,000 negative reviews in 48 hours.
okay,
This type of response is common with video games, but unfortunately, we don't see it with board games. So I think that CGS are going to see some blowback, but not as much as if they were making a video game.
okay,
But there is going to be some blowback.
probably and probably not, and they will see. But let's not make the mistake of thinking that there isn't a real chance that somebody covering your game in the wrong way can have a very negative impact. And when you have such a small market like the board game is, having somebody like Rado spreading misinformation, whether they do it willingly or unwillingly. Okay, I'm not going to assume any kind of malice on the part of Rado whatsoever, but the fact that they are spreading potentially pernicious information is something that needs to be taken care of. That's
I
the way
find
it
that
is.
wording a little bit. I find that wording a little disconcerting, just because he's not sharing misinformation. He's
Yeah.
covering a video game.
Well,
He's covering a board game that at certain points in the video shows art that game didn't pay for. That is not Rado's fault.
no, I'm not saying
It's it is absolutely completely improper to send a copyright strike to Rado, threatening to take down his channel for
Okay.
covering a board game.
One thing, I am not disagreeing with the method. I think the method is draconian, and I don't agree with it. But going for the channel saying you need to take this down now before it gets worse for us is perfectly legitimate.
Yeah.
Now, the thing
But that's
is,
not what they did.
The thing is, wait a second. The thing is, I don't believe for a second, not for 1 second, that YouTube would do anything after one cease and desist letter if the video is taken out. They just wouldn't do it. it doesn't, believe me, I've been hit with copyright strikes over the years when I use music that I didn't know I could use, and sometimes when I have used music that was public domain, and then the artist decided it wasn't meant to be public domain, and it happens, and YouTube will say, hey, you have a strike. You put the video down, and a few months later that strike disappears. It's gone. That's it. Nothing
Yeah.
happens. So they
Well,
would
there's a
have.
difference between copyright disputes and a copyright strike. There are how YouTube responds to it, same difference. Same thing with a trademark dispute. A
That's
trademark
different.
dispute is incredibly dangerous, and some people have gone after YouTube creators and using the
Mm.
trademark infringement because that's something that YouTube takes very seriously. But a problem is, of course, that for a lot of these situations, it's run by AI, and you rarely ever see a person making that judgment. It's like same thing when you get a content community strike on Facebook, which I got hit with because I recommended the film Shoot 'Em Up, and just that wording "Shoot 'Em Up" got myself frozen for a month. And the hilarity is that I was planning on advertising a product, and I was talking to a human being in the advertising department at Facebook, but even they couldn't get through the AI roadblocks to get my account unlocked. So a lot of times YouTube, this is just an AI, and
Yeah.
Rado probably hasn't spoken to a human being yet at YouTube.
Probably so, which is why I don't think this would be such a great thing. Now, do I agree with threats and that kind of shit? No, I don't. I think that's completely unnecessary. Do I understand the company wanting to protect everything with everything they have? Yes, I do. I'm sorry, but I understand their position. I may not agree with their methods, but I understand their positions, and I don't know. I don't think it is that bad or that it should be that horrific. If they had gone to court directly and sued Rado directly, I would say, okay, you're a bunch of motherfuckers. That's it, done. No questions asked. But sending a letter with a legal threat, I don't see that being that
So
massive big
just
of an
as
issue.
yeah, yesterday there was an update. I won't say anything about this creator. I'm just going to report it. Jesse Anderson from Quackalope got his video taken down with their first ever copyright strike and radio silence outside of the legal jargon email. He says, for us, it was our full gameplay that got removed. Everything was filmed and produced by us, no graphics or overlays. The worst part is YouTube has given me zero insight into the problem. Until I saw the Kickstarter update, I was completely blind to any solution. CGS, which I'm again referring to, he actually says it right, CGS, should drop the copyright claims on any creators in our space. They can do it within 5 minutes by logging in and removing the claim. A few more claims on mine or Rado's at the right time could and would have deleted the full channel permanently. So yeah, two very prominent creators hit, Rado and Quackalope.
But I can understand it. Those people have a very, very big reach, and as in a huge amount of people watching those videos. We are talking about thousands of people watching those videos, and if those thousands of people could go from buyers to non-buyers because of what they see in that video, that could be really bad for the company. Now, I'm not saying that that would happen. And I am not saying that it is something that it would happen because of anything in particular that either Quackalope or Rado would do. I don't assume malice at all. But I can understand that if you're showing art that doesn't belong to a game, that could sway people into either buying or not buying that game, and it doesn't belong to the game, you want it out now. And
Yeah.
this thing about hitting the channel with multiple copyright infringements, 2 copyright infringements on the same video from the same company wouldn't count. It would need to be a different kind of lawyer, and it would have to be on a different video, completely different video. On the same video,
Yeah.
1 strike, that's it. That's all that YouTube cares about to take action. And the
The
action
the
usually is to
worry
take the video off.
is that with Rado, depending on how much you spend, you can have 2 or 3 videos made. He could do because he'll do sometimes 1 or 2 part videos, and then he'll do a final thought video.
Mhm.
So if he had done all of those videos, they could have copyright strike all 3 of them at the same time, and that would have been very, very detrimental. So, like, once again, this creates a situation that if somebody had created multiple videos for this, they could have had that channel taken down. And that's a very bad look to CGS. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody within CGS right now holding their heads, screaming at the screen, or trying to talk some sense into someone going, what have you done? You have now just torpedoed our reputation. Once word gets out that we're doing copyright strikes, because at some point, Rado and Quackalope are going to do a video talking about this.
Mhm.
And they'll talk about, they won't show the game, but they'll talk about the fact that CGS has driven a copyright strike against my channel. And then that Rado is going to tell that to his 100,000 plus people. Quackalope will do a video to their 42,000 subscribers, and everyone's going to know that CGS was trying to take down. But basically, they're going to say that. Although, as you say, they never probably would have done it. But the point was, the threat of it is enough. So I wouldn't be surprised that in some point in time in the future, in the next few weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if Rado and Quackalope and whoever else got their videos taken down will come forward about this and speak of this, because if they feel that they are being attacked, they will defend themselves. Like I said, they're on this
And they should.
page. Both, yeah.
I think they should. Quite frankly,
Yeah,
I
and
think
if
they should
they-
be the
and
first
yeah.
ones to do that.
Yeah. And it's like I said, now, once again, in case you're wondering about Forsaken had a lot of money. So it's Rado, it's a Board Game Co., it's Quackalope, Learn to Play, have all done videos. These are all major channels. And in fact, if you go to their channel, most of these videos are coming back. One of them is still down. I don't know who the company is because it won't show it to me. But if you go to the Forsaken channel, it looks like a good number of these videos are back up. But at some point, there probably is going to be some updated information about what's going on. So suffice to say, and it's I don't know who this other channel is, but there's at least one other channel that hasn't had their video restored yet.
To be honest, I think it would be perfectly fair if all those channels decided to release a communique and saying, this is what this company's done to us. Therefore, this is why we are never going to be covering any of their games anymore.
Well, Rado said that.
Because, this is dangerous. This is dangerous for us. And that would be the end of it. And then the company would have to deal with the consequences of doing that. But let's not make a mistake. I understand the company taking measures. I think that going with that tone and going in that manner, that was excessive. That was really excessive. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was the lawyers who've written and done it that way were used to dealing with things like, I don't know, video games or other bigger claims, which is why they've managed to do it in such a manner. I don't know. It feels, the whole thing feels completely unnecessary. And I understand the reaction from the company. I understand their need to protect themselves. I think they've been asses about it. I wouldn't have done it the same way. And I really hope that everybody affected will speak up and see then what happens. But I don't think that going after YouTube channels that are showing content that should not be there is illegitimate or a bad thing at all. We have a responsibility. And even if we're showing things out of ignorance and without any malice or bad praxis, we should still be held accountable when we make a mistake or when we show something that should not be there, whether it is our fault or not.
Yeah. So CGS, by the way, also made they've made 3 games. Turns out one of them I actually owned. I don't own them anymore, which was the Towers of Arkanos, which was a die placing game that was reviewed quite favorably by Dice Tower, but since then its reviews have taken a bit of a hit. They're down to 6.7. It was a neat game to play once, but it turns out it didn't have much staying power, so we eventually got rid of it. But yeah, but so, yeah. So interestingly enough, I actually have actually had a 1.1 of their games, which just doesn't say much considering that they only may have published 3 games.
Well, we'll see how many more games they publish if they keep these kind of tactics. Because if people start to think that covering their games can be dangerous, then they will probably, tell them to F off.
Well, so Rado, I'm sure. Basically, this is something that's going to have ramifications. Once Rado and Quackalope, like they won't cover anything the CGS does anymore. Not only that, but I will imagine that once the word gets out, nobody else will want to cover there'll be small publishers. Like if you cross their palm with silver, they'll cover your videos. Oh, yeah. But for example, like I wouldn't be surprised if that they'll pay smaller creators, but you won't see any of the big name creators touching it.
No, that's very true. But hey, that's how it goes. They that's their grave, and they have dug it. Tough. Good.
So yeah, quite the interesting piece of news. Quite the topic to start off with.
Yes, absolutely. So what's next?
This is more of a question about very generic stuff about Kickstarter, and this is something that I'm a bit passionate about, which someone started talking about. But are friends obligated to support your Kickstarter?
Fuck no. Sorted. That's it. That is it. No, absolutely no one is ever obligated to support a Kickstarter. Ever. If they do it, is because they want to do it to help whoever they want to help, or because they're interested, or because they want to show that person that they trust their judgment and that they believe in them. But obligation? Absolutely not. For goodness sake, of course not.
Okay. Now, this is not going to change your stance, but I'm going to clarify the question again. I don't mean financial compensation in any way, but there was a lot of posts that were being shared some years ago, one of which I actually ended up sharing myself, which was basically how to support artists without spending money. It got viral. I ended up sharing it because there was this, I felt a lack of community support for artists in their industry. And so this happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I saw it shared around, and then I ended up sharing it. I saw different variations of the same thing about if you want to support an artist or a creator that you are passionate about or that you like, you're friends with, there are ways to do it. You can engage with them on social media. You can spread the word through Facebook sharing. You can recommend them. So when I talk about supporting a Kickstarter, this is what I'm referring to. If your friend, who I have to assume, let's say our topic is producing a tabletop role-playing game, a tabletop board game, is a writer, artist, if they are, and this is their profession, this is how they do things. They crowdfund stuff because that's basically how you do it. There's no solution. And so they're asking for their friends to support them. And they said, this is like, you don't have to spend any money. I'm not asking you to drop money because you may be in a financial situation, or you may have no interest in paying for what I'm offering. But if you could just share it on social media, it takes 5 seconds to share the Kickstarter. It takes 10 seconds to share it on X, Twitter. Just share it and spread the word and let people know that your friend's running the campaign. And also the word obligation means to think that, and this is the term somebody had mentioned just a few days ago, that friendship should not be transactional. And while I agree with that 100%, ever since this post 2 years ago, I got like part of me, I've been forced to question who my friends really are by their enthusiasm for what I do. And so transactional indicates that I do this for you, do this for me. That's what I consider transactional. And so for me, if any of my friends, close friends, says to me, hey, I'm running this campaign, and I've had that happen, can you share it on your social media? For me, it's like, well, of course I'm going to do that. It takes 4 seconds saying, hey, my friend's running this campaign. Adam Dries, a friend of mine, I have 2 or 3 friends that have run Kickstarters just last year, and I share it on my social media. Sometimes I'll share it even on my company page as well. I did not back these campaigns because I'm very strapped for cash, and I'm not really interested in their specific products, but I can at least take that extra step. And that's what I ask about. And it feels weird that I get this pushback from people saying that you are not obligated. I go, you're right, you're not obligated, but I'm forced to question, why aren't you still supporting them?
There could be many reasons. Okay, and I think for me is the word obligated that it draws a no from me right away, because I don't
Yeah.
think that anybody should be obligated to do anything they don't want to do, for whatever reason. Maybe they don't want to do it. Let's assume that I have a friend, who's a very dear friend of mine, who goes on to Kickstarter to create this campaign, and I can see that they really are going to fall full flat on their face on this one, because
Yeah.
they don't have what it takes in terms of talent or knowledge or whatever to actually make it happen. I would feel I am contributing to their downfall if I actually help promote them. So I wouldn't do it. Not because I don't love them as friends, but because I don't believe that they have what it takes to actually create that project. Now, would I support them by, if they wanted me to, if they asked, support them in helping them make a better campaign? Yes. A better product? Yes. But I would not support somebody that I don't feel has what it takes to fulfill something on Kickstarter, or that produces a product or something that I don't believe in, even if they are my
Well,
friends.
yeah, if you don't believe in it, like if you're good friends with someone and they're posting something that you feel is very sus, I can understand that, because sometimes you can have deep friends that may be a little bit misguided. But from my perspective, unless their project is throwing up a red flag where I'm like, I you know I don't have an issue. But more so than that, and I'll be 100% honest, when I started going into Kickstarter full time in 2018 with the first campaign, I didn't really think much about it. But shortly after, near the campaign ended, and I had a very volatile conversation with 2 friends which is another topic entirely, questioned my ethics by even using Kickstarter, because they felt I was morally bankrupt for taking revenue from my Kickstarter money. Yeah, I know. I think we've actually talked about this before, because I remember being so concerned by that. I went to the Gamma Facebook page, posted this, and I got just like dozens of people saying your friends are idiots. And the hilarious thing is that they're both teachers. One's a teacher of philosophy, and the other one's a computer teacher. Oh yeah. One has a doctorate in psychology. Anyway, so
Fuck.
but then I noticed when I started looking back that him and his circle of friends never ever supported my Kickstarter. They never shared it. They didn't pass it. And this is something like, this is D&D. They literally had played this very game, and they made no effort to support it. And I said to myself, like, and I realized, like, there is a level of narcissism with this group of friends that I cannot be part of. And so I ended up cutting, I'd say, about 8 or 9 people who were once my close friends. And one of the biggest reasons was because I can't be around people that don't want to support their friends.
Mhm.
Now, So and of course, I'm now with a group of people like have either backed it. I don't really care if they back it, and some people do share it. But I I noticed who my friends are because I have people that have like they share it with zero interest in the subject at hand. I know people who never touch D&D that share it because we're friends. And I start to really analyze. I go, these are the people I need to value. These are the people I need to foster my friendship with because they are taking that little step. It is marginal, but a step is a step.
Mhm.
And I started to realize that some people feel that if they feel that they're obligated to help their friend, that if they feel obligated, as a knee-jerk reaction, they pull back and refuse to support that person because they don't want to feel obligated. And by that, you're creating this type of alienation. In your situation, if I had a friend, unless the product was something I was morally against, like if they're just doing a D&D campaign, this one guy, David Fior, is running a campaign, and his campaign is unfortunately stumbling. He's only got about 50%. This is definitely, I don't want to say amateur, but it's definitely a new campaign. He doesn't really understand the situation. And he is a little confused with the psychological aspects of Kickstarter, which unfortunately a lot of people have to bang their head against. So there's a very good chance that he might probably won't succeed. If he does, he'll just make it. He hasn't gotten that viral turnover. And he was talking about the fact that he wasn't supporting this person because they weren't supporting him or someone else was like that. No, I remember what it was. It was Wonderfilled. Our famous,
Oh,
wonderful Jeff Lanassa, who we all hate, posted about he wasn't going to support this company because this friend because he didn't support him. And people were making posts about the fact that, only a person like him would consider friendship transactional. And I couldn't help but go, okay, I will say that despite the fact that I despise the company and the people representing it, and I do agree that friendship should be transactional. If you're good friends with someone, why aren't you supporting them, especially in this age when trying to be a artist is so volatile and hard to recover from? I find that very interesting.
well, I think, to be honest, I think the reason people don't do it is because they are not really good friends. That's it.
And also, yeah,
Again, I can see the word obligated really triggers me right away. So it's a no, nobody should be obligated to, but everybody should be enticed to do it just because they're your friends. And if you like the product or if simply you don't dislike it, there is no reason not to do it. At the end of the day, they're your friends. People who don't, they are like people. For instance, I love cooking, right?
was
And
that?
I love cooking.
Yes.
And I use a machine called the Thermomix, which is a very
Oh my
expensive.
God, you have a Thermomix?
I do, yes.
God, I hate you so
I know.
much. You know how much I would love a I know you're off topic, but God, I've always wanted a Thermomix. Anyway, go
Well,
on.
there is a kind of club. Thermomix does very well creating a community around the machine and sharing recipes and doing workshops and stuff. They are absolutely fantastic doing that. And if you refer somebody and they buy a Thermomix, then you can get a gift.
Yeah.
That's just a referral program, and they work very well. Um, I have had people who have taken a look at my machine, they liked it, and when they went to buy it, they on purpose said that they didn't get a reference from anyone because they didn't want me to benefit from them buying the machine. Which is like, why would it bother you so much that I get a vacuum cleaner or a set of pans or whatever it is that they were going to give me, a second vase or whatever for the machine? Why would it bother you? And the reason is that they are not really good friends.
Yeah.
That's it. Because if they are not prepared to do something good, if they're prepared to stop something good from happening to you for no benefit, no extra benefit to them, they're just not good friends. So I would extrapolate that to this conversation that we're having. if they are not prepared to do something good for you, when doing that something good for you is not detrimental to them, they are just not good friends. That's it.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's not a point of friendship being transactional, and it's
No.
not about obligation. But I feel if you're a creator and you're an artist, and you ask people who you think you're friends to support you, and unless they specifically tell you why they won't, I find that apathy to be a yellow flag to force you to consider: are these people really your friends, or are they, or just acquaintances, people you
In
hang out with?
disguise. I agree. I completely and utterly agree. Anyway, we've been going for 50 minutes and I have a quick review to make
Good.
because we have loved walking in Burano.
Oh, I've heard of this game.
Yeah, this game is actually,
I've been thinking about getting it.
it's actually rather lovely. It's very simple and it is very, very lovely. In Walking in Burano, you are actually going to be a somebody developing a street in Burano. Burano is this beautiful island in the Mediterranean, famed for doing some glasswork, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So you're going to have a number of floors, so ground floor, first floor, and second floor, or you are in North America, first, second, and third floor, because for some weird reason, you people call the ground floor the first floor. But never mind that, because I don't want to start another war. So that's fine. Just call it whatever you want. So you have those three floors, and you have to, through a quick transaction, you have to buy those floors and create your own streets. And your street is created in front of you on a 5 by 3 grid. The first person who completes 5 buildings triggers the game end, and then the scoring takes place. There are some rules. You cannot have two houses of the same color, beside the other. And the 3 floors have to have exactly the same color. So if you start with the ground, first floor in yellow, the first and second floor also have to be yellow. And if it is in terracotta, also the whole building has to be in terracotta, and you cannot have two terracotta buildings adjacent. Once you complete a building, which is easier than it may sound, you have to choose who is going to inhabit it. Is it going to be one of the town folk, or is it going to be a tourist? Town folk are going to give you some points at the end of the game, depending on what kind of people you choose to inhabit. So, for instance, if you have the mayor is interested in how many people are walking around Burano. So every pedestrian shown in the ground floor is going to count as 1 point. If you are the gardener, then the number of plants displayed around your street are going to give you points. But if you're a tourist, it's going to be perhaps the number of flowers or how many kittens there are in town. The game plays in about 30 to 40 minutes. Funnily enough, the rules are extremely well explained, which is something that we were very surprised, gladly surprised by, because the last time we played an Emperor's 4 game, and that was World Splitters, the experience was horrible because we could barely understand the rules. It was in very, very dear need of a proofreader and an editor. This time, they have actually done it. The game plays beautifully, is 1 to 4 people. It says ages 10 and up, but I reckon that there are going to be some 8-year-old people who will be able to play this. And seriously, adorable. This is not a game that you're going to be playing all the time. Once you play 3 or 4 times in one evening, you'll probably want to set it aside. But I am going to give it a very, very solid 7.5, because for me, it needs a little bit more player interaction. There isn't really an awful lot other than, oh, shoot, you took the building I wanted to take. But other than that, there isn't really that much player interaction. If there was a tiny little bit more of messing up, other players' buildings, that would make the game a lot more interesting to me. But even so, It is absolutely delightful. It looks gorgeous on the table. It is very easy to play. It's a small game you can take pretty much anywhere. And it's been very well produced and very well observed. So that is Walking in Burano by Empress 4.
Now, here's going to be the interesting thing.
Mhm.
I'll get to the point 2 in a second. Point 1 is that, do you know that this is the second game with Burano in the title?
Yes, I do, because I also
And the
have
first,
Burano, and it's a very
which is
complicated game.
also published by the same company.
Correct. And I haven't played that game yet because it's actually very complex. I just have the feeling that somebody has traveled to Burano and they love the island. They've actually learned very well what the island is all about, because the way that you have to build a street is actually real Burano. In Burano, you cannot have two houses of the same color side by side. So it is a real life kind of game.
Yeah, so when you mentioned that game, I had to look it up going, I don't recall this being, because I was thinking of the other game. I was thinking of just Burano, which was published in 2015.
Yes.
And that one has, it's a lot of multicolor, it's a stacking game, but yes, it's absolutely more complicated than the game you spoke of. These are both published by Empress S4, but they have different creators and different artists.
Correct.
So it's so interestingly enough, it's a very different game. I'm gonna see if this is gonna. Yep, there it is. So for those people wondering, if you look at my background, this is Burano.
Correct.
The real Burano. This is a photo I took. Because I've been to Burano. This right here, that's my mother.
Oh, right. Hello.
So I was taking So we were part of a tour. I didn't care for the tour much, but it was an Italian tour. We went to Rome. We went into Napoli for shortly. We went to Florence for the day, and then of course we went to Venice. And one of the excursions that you could pay for, optional excursions, we went off to Burano for the afternoon and had lunch. And so obviously this is Burano. So I am one of those people. I've been interested in getting a game about Burano. I was hoping you'd played both. You can tell me which one to pick up.
The other one, I just looked at it and it's just very, very complicated. It's a very heavy
Walking in Burano does have an aggregate score that's higher, I'll say. Walking Burano's score is 7.1. Burano is 6.7. So I think I'm more interested in getting the one that you just brought up. Have you been to Burano?
No, I have not. The reason I would say Walking in Burano might be the better choice is because it would be very, very easy to introduce people to gaming using this game. It's a very, very charming little game.
It looks delightful, and unfortunately, the moment you mentioned cats, that was basically going to be the given. I have to now conspire to keep this game from my wife, because if it's a game with cats, it's something that she's definitely going to be interested in. It's actually a game of like, oh god, this is cats for her and Burano for me. But yeah, no, this is definitely, if I see this game for sale, I think of all the titles that you've mentioned so far, I think this might be the one that I do want to go out and snag. I wonder if it's available in Canada and how much it's going for. Because Empress S4 are also well known for not making particularly expensive games. They have generally nice price points. Let's see here. Oh yeah, look at that. So Burano is Canadian. So if you want a Euro translation, times by 1.5. I didn't realize that Empress S4 also made another game called Walking in Province.
Well, there you go.
And yes, and also there is a roll and write version of Walking in Burano called Walking in Burano Roll and Write, which is one of the longest titles I've seen for a game. Walking in Burano Roll and Write. So in question, Walking in Burano, only $26 Canadian, which puts it at only about 30 euros.
That is
20 euros. That'd be 20
euros. That's a steal, seriously. Well worth getting this game. It is lovely, it is charming, and we had a great time playing it. And the rules are well written, which is great.
Yeah, S4. It's weird to S4. I've always enjoyed the games I've bought, but my wife and I never seem to want to keep them for more than 2 plays. So we've owned, I think, 4 S4 games. I think we only currently have 1 in our permanent collection, which is, I don't know what that says about them, but I've never hated one of their games.
Me,
I've always
me,
enjoyed it. Yeah.
me neither. The only reason we didn't replay World Splitters is because the rules really messed up our heads. But as a game, I thought it was very well made, very, very cool. But yeah, very bad experience. But seriously, walking in Burano, highly, highly recommended. So that's it from me today.
Well, I'm glad. We actually had stuff to talk about. It's nice to have some topics.
We need
And
to talk about one thing in a future episode:
okay,
nudity in board games.
nudity specifically or suggestible content?
Both.
Okay.
We need to talk about eroticism and in board games, whether it is appropriate or not appropriate, and how and when, and what games do it, and what games do it well, what games do it bad, that sort of thing.
That's an interesting topic. It definitely can expand to other things, not necessarily nudity, but you could also even bring up the sexualization of characters. That has obviously been a carryover from video games that have been doing it for a very, very long time. I can't remember what was it was one of the pocket games. You know those tiny box games that
tiny
was
galaxies and tiny whatevers.
Tiny Epic Galaxies.
Yeah.
I think it was the Tiny Epic Quest or one of the variations where they had a big busted female on the cover, and enough people complained that they went back and redid the illustration to reduce her bust size. And of course, once that happened, the anti-woke jerkwads came off and proceeded to turn this into a battle cry for wokeness and so forth. But that would be definitely I think a related issue.
Good. Well, let's dwell on it for a future episode. But for now, we've gone over the hour, and it's already past my bedtime. Nearly came my bedtime. So we should start saying goodbye to our friends. Look, even my dog is there, sleeping already. Look at that little cute little thing. Hello, Tycho. Hi. He's a cute.
He woke up when you said it.
Well,
and where are my daggers? Are they conked out? Yep, there they are. There they are. Gizmo comes up. Food.
Okay, humans, thank you very much indeed for being there. We'd love to hear what you think about, the topics. Should companies be able to go against YouTube creators if they're showing a copyright infringement that they did not do, like if it is in their game? How do you think the company should have done? Should your friends be obligated to support you? Or would you feel obligated to support your friends if they had a project of any kind, not just Kickstarter, but any kind? And have you ever been to Burano? Would you like to go? And if you would like to go, how about we go together? But that's for me. That's it for me. I have nothing else. I am Paco Garcia. Please email us podcast@gmsmagazine.com. And find me on Twitter. I am at GMS Magazine. But you can find me at GMS Magazine on pretty much any social network. And the links are down there in the show notes. So say hi.
And this has been Chris with DSX Machina. Find me on all things DSX Machina, on X, which I never use, Facebook. Honestly, I'm on TikTok more than I'm on X, but Facebook, definitely find me there. And I'm on my own company page at DSX Machina as well.
And until the next time, humans, thank you once more for being there. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.